Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Everybody, it's Tuesday, November 11th, 2025. Thank you for tuning in to today's show to hear all the relevant groundbreaking news here in America and around the world, the only show where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Please don't forget to follow the show, share with whoever needs to hear the truth so we can make common sense more common again in America together as one. Hope everyone's ready for the best hour radio has to offer, uncensored and ready to go. I've got a great show lined up for you. Let's get right down to business today. First of all, happy Veterans Day to all those that have served in our military over the years. We appreciate you so much. We thank you for your service to this nation and obviously for our national security. You know, before I left California, I went to the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library, and Gary Sinise has a great memorial outside for all of our veterans, of course, and he's done a lot of work with them as well. It's really wonderful to see it, and of course, I implore everyone to go visit the Reagan Library to attend it. Richard Nixon Library in Yorba Linda, California, also great. Lots of information about the Vietnam War there. Again, both in great locations and must-sees in my own estimation. Did you know that there are 70,000 World War II veterans still alive in America today, though? I was looking at this yesterday. I couldn't even believe it. I said 70,000. My God. And it over 80 years ago. I mean, that's just really something to think about. Obviously, these men are in their 90s now, possibly even older than that. But amazing that we have so many World War II veterans in a war that ended over 80 years ago. We've got some 750,000 Korean War veterans. Of course, that ended 72 years ago, and 1.2 million Vietnam veterans still living today. Vietnam ended in 1973. Of course, there's other various wars we've had since then. We have the Gulf Wars, we have Iraq, Afghanistan, and obviously the men that served in those as well. So, if you know a veteran, please say thank you. We may not always agree on the context of the war, but we all can agree on one thing. The bravery, the dedication, the sacrifices that these men and now women, yes, women too, have done for the United States in terms of the military is just, it should not go unnoticed, folks. And certainly not on this show. We should appreciate these people for what they've done for our national security and just their bravery overall. Absolutely. It's not an easy thing to do. You know, we have some 800 different military bases across this world that our veterans are soldiers, and of course, obviously our veterans have been in them as well. And that they sacrifice a lot of time there, away from their families, away from where they grew up. The basic necessities that we have are, maybe not always there for them, where they're going out on watches and what have you. And it can be lonely in these times of year. During Thanksgiving, during Christmas, during Easter, during other holidays, when they're over somewhere else, we're here enjoying these freedoms. And again, freedom is never always free, is it, folks? You always have to fight for it. So, if you know a veteran, if they're willing to share some stories with you about their time in the service, or even if it's just any type of basic type of training or anything like that, just listen to these men that have, again, sacrificed their time for their country. It's important to do, folks. And, of course, give them a big thank you as well. I know they'll appreciate it, of course. And, by the way, if you can ever donate to help any of our veterans, there's many different programs which you can do. I know Fox News has a program that donates directly to veterans. Tunnel to Towers comes to mind to help veterans that have been wounded in combat, that have come home, adapt, and, of course, have homes of their own. It's a very great program as well. Wounded Warrior is another one that comes to mind as well. So please do what you can, if it's feasible for you, to help make a difference in our veterans' lives, folks. Because at the end of the day, they put it down on the line for us. And we should all be very grateful and thankful for their service. And we are, especially on this program. I know you all feel the same way about that as well. So thank you, our veterans. We appreciate you. I think we could do a little better in some cases. We've got 33,000 homeless vets right now. I think we need to fix that ASAP. And that's something that really, really bothers me as well. I'm sure it bothers you too. So, regardless of that all, happy Veterans Day to our best and our bravest out there. We appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for your service. All right, let's get down to brass tacks as far as what's happening in the world around us today, what's happening around us. And this I brought up yesterday on the show because I saw it and I didn't know what to really make of it. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. This is in Fox News. It says that Trump calls tariff opponents fools and then promises $2,000 dividend payments for Americans. This comes in, of course, in the midst of the Supreme Court currently hearing arguments on President Trump's tariff authority, which probably is not going to go very well. But he said during a Truth Social post, he said, people that are against tariffs are fools. We are now the richest, most respected country in the world, with almost no inflation and a record stock market price. A dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people. I guess they can pay high percentages on food and everything, and it goes unnoticed. Yep, $2,000 a person will be paid to everyone. Now, let me stop and tell you this. Something's wrong with this. Something's a bit odd with this economic agenda. Now, he said that, his economic agenda, the manufacturing plants and factories are seeing record investment. Okay, but where are the jobs? Where is the investment going? What have we seen that you've built that we can point to? Jobs growth. Where can we point to things? And again, he's brought down price of gas. I applaud him for that. I give credit where credit's due. Gas prices are much lower than under Biden. They're still not to $2 a gallon in many cases. Many state gas taxes are causing all that. But he said that we're the richest country in the world. Now, we do have the biggest economy in the world. I will not deny that. That's absolutely true. But are we really the richest country? And again, are we in this golden age that they continue to talk to us about? Let's go and not waste any time. Let's talk about the average age for home ownership in America today. Let's break it down. Where do you see success? Where do you see the American dream? Home ownership, owning your own home, owning your own piece of land. That's always been the goal of many Americans, of course, that you own your own property. The government does not own it. We don't live in a feudal states. But here we go. It says here now that if you're in the age range of 38 to 40, is now the median age to purchase your first home. Okay. Now I saw something today. It just popped up today. It said the average age now is 61. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm going to look into that. But if that's true, that's terrible. Why would you get into a mortgage if you're 61 years old? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Maybe some people want to do that. But if the average age to buy a home is 61, that's not good, folks. That's not good at all. Let's go to some comparison, though. In the 1950s to 1990s, we'll start off with 1950 here. The late 20s, typically 27, 28 in that era. And then 31 to 32 in 1990. By then, the majority of people in that age group were buying homes. Okay? It gets worse, though. The average age we're talking about home ownership, and if we're talking about getting married, it becomes much less viable for many Americans. Let's take it into context here. In 1940, during the Great Depression, we had I'd argue, the worst economy probably of any era in America. The average age to be married and buy their first home for a man was 24 years of age, and for a woman was 21 years of age. Okay, so again, think about that era and think about what was happening. Think about the economy, and people are still buying homes. Tells you something about what we're experiencing today. In the 1950s, the average age for men were 22. Again, being married. The average age for a woman was 20. And 50% of people in that age group were able to achieve that status of getting married, buying your first home, starting a family. Same age groups in 1960, except now it's 52% of people in that age group are buying homes. That's the average age when you're buying a home. Okay, so 52% of your peers we're also achieving these same different feat. 1970s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, we start to see everything starting to trickle up. Let's go to 2025, okay? The average age for a man is just over 30 years of age, and for a female is 28 and a half years of age to buy a home. However, this is the kicker here. This is only possible for 12% of the population in that age group. So, we see these things. It's getting more and more unaffordable to buy things. How can we sit here and say we've got the greatest economy in the world? We're worth some $38 trillion in debt. Much of it we owe to China, by the way. I don't know how you can get out there and say this. It's certainly not a good economy, I would say, right now. We had 4 years of the Biden administration doing absolutely nothing for the economy but destroy it. I understand Trump came in and inherited a mess, but we've got to be realistic about what we're dealing with here now. And I'm not saying Trump can't fix it. He certainly can. In fact, he was on Laura Ingraham last night, and I jotted this down for everybody. He said that we have $21 trillion in investments coming into America. And I said, great. Where the hell is it? Because I'm not seeing it anywhere. So we can point to places like Japan investing $550 billion in industrial and energy sectors. Okay, that's fine. But we need to see the progress. Where's the building going? How many people are they hiring? What kind of jobs will they be offering? We don't want just commitments. We want to see actual results. We want to see the progress. We're playing a game of show and tell constantly. They don't show us anything, but they're telling us everything under the sun. Now, it's important to understand that many of these investments, too, by the way, that we're talking about are simple pledges. There's none written in ink in many regards. Some of these are also multi-decade projects, so they could take place 10 years from now. Then maybe we'll build a plant for energy or what have you. So we have economists now warning that this foreign direct investments that we're seeing are, again, dependent on global markets, demand. And again, not just these blind investors. Yeah, we'll give you, $1 trillion. Well, they'll give you $1 trillion if they decide to build their plant here, maybe. Who knows? Understand this, okay? What is this adding to? Where is this $21 trillion going to go? Where are the opportunities, particularly for young adults? That's the biggest factor now, especially what we're seeing in places like New York City, where they're electing a communist who's offering them free this, free that, free everything, okay? We have to understand, where can people find these opportunities? Where are the opportunities for young Americans? Where are the opportunities for any American, by the way? Right now we're the number one debtor nation. We owe more money than all other debtor nations combined. Doesn't sound like too much of a success to me. And again, this isn't Donald Trump's fault. This has been decades and decades of doing this. Again, much of this has to do with China joining the World Trade Organization in 2001, thanks to Billy Clinton. Old Bill Clinton. Yep, there he is. We saw the manufacturing begin to die out in this country. Now we have empty warehouses, empty buildings, empty storefronts. We used to, at one point, produce every single thing in this country. Anything you wanted. Any appliance, any gadget, any this, any automobile, anything. We created it right here in this country. Now what do we see in this country? Well, we see the exact opposite. Now we're importing far more than what we're exporting. What do you see on the labels today, by the way? Made in China, made in Japan, made in Mexico, Vietnam, Brazil, Canada. Oh, my God. We're falling apart economically. And as a result, we are likely to not be the world reserve currency, the petrodollar, for a very long time. Our dollars are back to nothing now, folks. Understand that. Since 1971, we went from being a surplus trader to now we are a deficit trading partner. That's what it means. This is living far above our means. Again, because of the dollar being in such high circulation, such high demand. So again, what have we done about these deficits? Did we decide to produce more? No, we didn't. We decided to put tariffs on things to try to make up for it. And again, the consumer then pays the price to buy the product in the store. That's why consumer price indexes are skyrocketing right now. Let's go back in time. Let's go back about 92 years ago. Let's not waste any time. Yet FDR took America off the gold standard, right? All our dollar bills were backed in gold. that came out of the Federal Reserve. You could trade in your dollar bills and get gold back up until that point. So under this Gold Reserve Act of 1934, again, it devalued the dollar, right? The purchasing power went down. And it centralized, understand the word centralized, who FDR was. He was a communist. He's one of them. He's on the left, far left. They centralized gold ownership in the Treasury via the Exchange Stability Fund. Now, what did that mean? It means it raised the price of gold from $20.62 per ounce to now $35 an ounce. So they're overvaluing the amount of gold they have, which then allowed them to print more money. See how that worked? They wanted more money supply. They wanted the money supply to raise, of course. That way you have more dollars. Okay? Now, at the time, you are in a Great Depression. You want to get money out so people can buy food, pay their rent, their mortgage, or what have you. Seems like a good idea, right? We have more dollar bills going around. Everyone's happy, right? Well, none of that changed, by the way. The Great Depression continued well on into the 1940s. And the only thing that took us out of it was World War II. So again, when all else fails, as Gerald Celente says, what do? They take you to war. And that's exactly what they did. They took us into World War II. And again, they took 12 million men out of the workforce. And again, the economy recovers. All of Europe lie in ruins. They're not as advanced, the world wasn't as advanced as obviously the West was. So again, where we become this great superpower. And it's been going swimmingly until, well, very recently. But this is the reality of the situation. This is the downfall of the dollar, folks. This is affecting your purchasing power today. This is why your dollar is only worth about 2 to 3 cents. So they had the Treasury go in and they intervene in these foreign markets, bypassing the Federal Reserve itself, which again is a privately owned bank. That's unconstitutional too, by the way. Just thought I'd bring that up. And it had no congressional oversight, no congressional appropriations of any kind. And we can look at the value of the dollar. You can go look at a map of, the dollar's, purchasing power, how much it's worth, and you'll see that start to trickle down real quickly in this era. Because now you're printing more dollar bills with less gold. There you go. So, he wants to increase the money supply. That's why he did that. We're in a Great Depression. The other thing he did, FDR did, passing the Executive Order 6102, requiring every American to turn in their gold supply. So you can't own gold anymore. You got to do what we tell you. You got to bring your gold in and you get these paper dollar bills. That's what they wanted. Now, that was in effect, obviously, in the early 1930s. So now we got a system, that's functioning internationally, of course, and it was called the Bretton Woods system. It created in 1944. But what happened in August of 1971? What did Richard Nixon do? Well, he took us, off this Bretton Woods system. We were dealing with inflation. We were dealing with the consequences of the Vietnam War. Of course, LBJ's social welfare programs, known as the Great Society, which wasn't so great at all. So they ended the international government's ability to convert their dollars from abroad and receive gold. So it ended any type of U.S. tie to the gold standard. And of course, now the dollar bill, what it is today, is just simple fiat currency. It's not backed in anything. And again, it could work if we were to back it in something else, if we were to back it in silver, if we were to back it into any type of our production, our raw materials. It could work that way, but we're not doing that. We're just simply printing money left and right. And of course, what else did we do? Well, we started outsourcing jobs. In 1980, there's about 20 million manufacturing jobs in this country. Today, we have about 12.9 million today. And of course, we have about 125 million more people in America today. So that just gives you some context for all that. And of course, you have countries like China now, our biggest rival economically, buying up all of our debt. Like I said, it's just the way things are going in this country. So, we have this, they called it the International, what do they call it? International Emergency Economic Powers Act. To impose tariffs and whether these, they're trying to address the trade deficit is what's happening. And the reason we have a trade deficit is because we're importing more than we're exporting to these countries. That's why you see it's not because anything off. Okay, so understand that. And they're trying to make up for this loss by charging more when they bring in the products. And of course, it's not working out so well right now. And now we have to see if it violates the Constitution separation of powers. I think it does. We've had trade deficits with these countries beginning in 1934. Now all of a sudden it's an economic emergency. Come on, folks. We need to start producing more than what we're taking in. That's what it comes down to. And we're not seeing it. And that's a big problem. That's why we have these massive trade deficits. That's why we went from trade surpluses to now trade deficits. Understand that. Oh, by the way, the Wall Street Journal has an article up. I'm very sad to see this. As an Italian American, pasta is now poised to disappear from American grocery stores. Italian pasta. Can you believe that? I know my paisans listening are upset about this. It says the Trump administration is now set to impose duties of 107% on Italian pasta imports, among the most punitive of tariffs it has levied. What the hell's going on here? Why are we doing this? Well, they don't want us to have Italian pasta made in Italy with less garbage in it than in the American stores? Is that what it is? I have no idea. What is the reason for this? Well, I'm sure I don't know. But all I can tell you is now that the businesses doing this, that ship their goods to America, are finding now it's going to become too costly. And now what are they doing? They're going to prepare to pull out of the U.S. stores as soon as January. Yep. So now you're going to have less products on the shelves. Should we be about free trade, limited government, limited intervention, limited tariffs, if anything? Instead, we're getting businesses to not even ship their goods here. Can you imagine if they did this to China? They said, you know, we're just not shipping these goods here anymore. It's just not going to happen. We're not going to make any money. I mean, you talk about supply chain issues, it's going to be like a massive one. Now, I get some groceries that are produced overseas, many different kinds. I like to have options. Right? I like my Moroccan olive oil. It's some of the best olive oil you can get in the world. Comes out of Morocco. If all of a sudden we say, hey, you know what, we're gonna put a tariff on you of 107% now. Well, that 13 bottle of olive oil is now going to cost double that price now. And people are saying, you know what, this isn't even going to make any sense. Because now I got to put it on the shelf for over double what it is. They're going to buy the other olive oils or limited products going to be bought. It's not lucrative for us anymore. We're going to pull out of the market. Why would we want this? We should want competition on the shelves as well. Again, it makes no sense to me why we're doing this, of course. It's upsetting. It really is upsetting to see this. Again, as time goes on, you're going to start seeing more of these businesses say, you know what? We're just not doing this anymore. We're not going to put up with this. Slate News has an article that says Europe is now criminalizing large cash payments ahead of digital euro launch. Oh, look at what they get to look forward to in Europe. You know, think it's coming to America? Of course it is. Of course it is. They want this here too. Remember, as so goes Europe. Comes over to probably California first, then it comes to the rest of the world. All this insanity starts to happen. And now what they're going to do is any cash payment made over, I think it's 10,000 euros, is now going to become a criminal offense. Can you believe this? Any crypto transaction above 1,000 euros without approved identity verification is now subject to prosecution. So they're trying to get rid of the dollar bills they have over there, the euros, I should say. Trying to get rid of the paper currency, and they're trying to implement this digital ID card. Is what they want now. Everything's going to be digital. So meanwhile, you have anonymous digital wallets used for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are banned entirely. The new laws mandate now that every crypto transfer must be linked to a verified digital ID, folks. That's how they do it. This is how they're going to try to do this. Now, of course, they claim it's going to be about security. Anyone that has a brain realizes it's about control. You say something on social media they don't like, boom, they shut that digital ID right off. You aren't doing a damn thing. And you can't do a damn thing because it's all linked together. And again, the new laws likely are in preparation to the looming central bank digital currency, which we should be outlawing here in the United States of any kind. Again, it's going to be due to set to take place and launch across all these EU nations, all 27 of them. So the banks will be the big winners. The governments will become more tyrannical. They'll continue to open up their borders to the entire world. And goodbye, Europe. It's all over. Oh, by the way, the European Central Bank has confirmed plans to roll out the 2029. Whoa. Look what you get to look forward to, Europe. You're dying right in front of our eyes. Good Lord. Good Lord. I can't believe it. It's unbelievable. Really and truly, it becomes unbelievable at times when you start to see all this. We were talking about the economy. We were talking about how things are building in America. This was posted the other day in Fox News. Pushed forward by Josh Hawley, who I tend to like his what he discusses and what he stands for. It says AI could drive U.S. employment up to 20%. Yeah. Senators warned a new bill targeting job tracking. What is going on here? This is what we get to look forward to, high unemployment rates. And of course, what do they talk about? They want universal basic incomes, right? They talked about that time and time again. So what are they trying to do in the halls of Congress? Well, there's this new bipartisan push in Washington, shining the spotlight on the AI's impact on job growth. And Senator Josh Hawley, along with, looks like Mark Warner. I can't stand him. But anyways, introduced an AI-related Job Impacts Clarity Act, which would require major companies and, of course, federal agencies to report AI-related job impacts to the Department of Labor. Okay, so it doesn't seem like it's outlawing anything. It looks like they're just tracking this. And again, the legislation is designed to shed light on how this artificial intelligence is going to be affecting the U.S. workforce. Well, obviously, if we're going to have 20% of the people in the job market, which I think is about somewhere in the 60%, we have a 60% labor participation rate. 20% are going to be gone? There's not even going to be there? I mean, that's not good. I think we all can agree on that. That's not a good thing. So, I mean, again, if they're talking about this means this is coming sooner than we think. Many people are also talking about how a lot of these jobs we have now are simply not going to be there in a couple of years. So that's something to think about. Then you got to think about the people that attend college. Think about the people that attend college that think this job's going to be there for them. They'll be there for, 30, 35 years. They'll work. They'll put their time in. They'll retire. That job might not even be there when they get out. So what does that say? What does that say when all the computer programmers don't have jobs? Or it's just a simply limited field? You think you're in a high-tech, skilled environment. But now AI can do your job, so they don't even need you. They have one person write the code. Boom, it's in there forever. Good. See you later. They don't need all these programmers anymore. They don't need all these engineers of these plants. They simply don't need it. AI is going to outsource you now, not just China. So, it's not good. It's saying that the core obligations, that's what it says here, covered entities must quarterly disclose job effects tied to AI, including layoff, hires, and positions left open because tasks were automated. The Department of Labor must compile these disclosures and publish a report, including to Congress. Well, again, what's Congress going to do? Say you can't use it? Are they going to ban AI? We're trying to lead in AI, aren't we? That's why we're trying to get that deal with China right now. And again, non-publicly traded companies may be included under certain thresholds. So the goal is clear. Consistent data source on how AI changes employment, but what are they going to do when that 20 or so percent begins to increase? Are they going to halt it? Are they going to say a company can only do so much with it versus outsourcing the majority of their jobs? Who knows? Will Congress have our back? When have they ever really had our back? That's the problem with this. When have they ever really had our backs? It's something that happens rarely, if ever. Oh, by the way, since we're talking economy, this is in Newsweek. Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is in the Washington Examiner. This is another farce. I can't believe I read this just yesterday. Republicans across the spectrum recoil at Trump's 50-year mortgage proposal. Is this insane or what? I just read to you that the average age is anywhere between 38 and 40 years old right now. Some are saying it's 61. Okay, let's put this into perspective. You get on a 50-year mortgage, right? You want to buy a house. Okay, you want to put put the money down, which they'll require less now. So more people will be getting into these mortgages. Well, I don't think I need to tell you, folks. By the time you get done paying this 50-year mortgage, you're going to be paying more for the interest than you are for the entire price of the house. That's how it's going to work. Again, even if you're paying a low interest rate on it, look at the price of these houses. And again, you're putting such a small amount in, because again, it's being spread out now. It's being drawn out. In time, you'll just be paying the interest on that for year after year after year. And then, let's say you're 38 when you buy that first house and you're on a 50-year mortgage. What, you're going to be 88 when you pay off the house? What's the point of that? You might as well just rent. Be cheaper. Again, I'm not telling you what to do financially. Don't get me wrong. But this sounds like a terrible, terrible idea. What is this? This isn't MAGA. This isn't America First. The idea to solve the problem, ladies and gentlemen that are listening, is to build more homes, to create more affordability. And again, I'll say this again. I know it's not a popular thing to say. We have about 45 to 50 million illegals living in the country. No, I don't think every one of them are bad people. Don't get me wrong. But you have a lot of people here that simply shouldn't be here. And as a result, they're taking up real estate. And if you had 50 million people not here, what do you think it's going to do to the market? Well, it's going to crash the market, first of all. But everything's going to be much more affordable. It will be. It simply will be. That's just the way it's supply and demand, folks. That's how the market works. That's how the market should work. Then you got to figure you have about 55 million people here illegally on expired visas, shouldn't be here, also staying here. So you got anywhere from about 100-ish million people that don't even belong here, that are taking up real estate. Now, again, if all those people that are working these jobs simply just leave all of a sudden, I don't think that's a good thing for the economy. But it would really open up that housing market. You'd be able to get in there and purchase something of your own. Believe me that. The only problem is we got things like these investment groups. We got BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard coming in, buying up these homes, probably outbidding people because they're worth trillions of dollars. So you don't have a chance. So they're buying up all these single-family homes. They're buying up all these units of newly homes built and everything like that. Really, it should be illegal, in my estimation. Josh Hawley should look into banning that for sure. But this is what we find ourselves in. You're trying to go up against BlackRock? Owned by, what's his name? Larry Fink? Yeah. Good luck outbidding him on that, folks. Again, it drives up the cost of the houses. They just bid. And they outbid you. They buy the house. They own the house. So you think they're going to give it up at some point? They want control of the market now. They don't want you to have your single-family home ownership. They don't want this. And again, the whole thing reeks of you will own nothing and love it. World Economic Forum. That's what they're talking about. For those that don't know, the then president or chancellor, whatever the hell he was, the weirdo that he is, Klaus Schwab, came out and said, you will own nothing and love it. That's what he said. He's a German guy, so that's why I try to talk a little weird there. Nothing against the Germans at all, but this is what he was saying. You will own nothing and love it. You'll love the bugs that we give you with your food, too. Right? You'll love the 15-minute city we have for you. So, again, I sit here and I listen to these proposals. I said, this is World Economic Forum nonsense. This isn't America First. How could that be in America First, a 50-year mortgage rate where you're going to be paying God knows how much for that home for decades after it's even paid off? Yeah. It doesn't make any bit of sense. Marjorie Taylor Greene echoed this following statement. In debt forever, in debt for life. Yep, she's right. What did Thomas Massey say? I like Thomas Massey. He argued that high interest rates paid on a 50-year mortgage loan would cancel perceived benefits. Absolutely. After paying on a home for 5 years, if that interest rate is 7% on a 50-year mortgage, you would have paid only 1.3% of the principal. You're paying that interest rate, folks. Yep. Not a good thing. He said if you needed a 50-year loan, you probably didn't put much down at the closing. Seems like a recipe. Biden moment. For default and no ability to move for better jobs or schools. He gets it. Yep. There you go. You'll own nothing and love it, folks. I can't believe I have to read this stuff to you, but this is what's being proposed. And we as Americans should be opposing this every step of the way. This is a bunch of nonsense. I mean, let's get things under control. We don't want 50-year mortgages. We don't want this. We want things that are affordable. And that's why I said, are we in the era? I talked to you yesterday about the war on words, right? The civil war in the Republican Party. Are we in the next phase? A civil war on affordability? Because that's exactly what it seems like is happening right now in 2025. All right, moving on. Newsweek. What are they telling us now? Texas Governor Greg Abbott has proposed a series of property tax changes for people living in the Lone Star State. And I've been there before. It's a really nice state, Texas. I just wouldn't want to live there because it's so damn hot. I was in Austin in July a couple of years ago. It's a scorcher, folks. It's hot out there, but it's a vibrant area, though. Very nice area. Lots of great people. If you like the hot weather like that, it's a nice spot for you. But here we go. Greg Abbott proposing property taxes create increased cost for homeowners, obviously, and we know that. Texas, the median property tax rate was $4,274 in 2023. A number of states, including Florida and Ohio, are also working to slash these taxes to stop bills from soaring amid rising house prices. In fact, I think Governor Ron DeSantis has talked about even just slashing it altogether. That's a pretty interesting thing to hear. So, speaking at an event on Sunday, Abbott said voters should have the power to decide whether to eliminate property taxes that fund public schools. Now, he also proposed that any future tax rises should be subject to the approval of 2/3 votes. So, I mean, that's another thing. So they're trying to put things back in the hands of the voters. And I know some of you are listening going, well, wait a minute, Trace. Well, who's going to fund the schools now? What's going to happen there? Are they going to have public schools anymore? And if not, what's going to happen to our great educational system that we've been paying for decades and decades? Well, let me just put it to you this way. Let me just read you something. Now, we had, before we even had taxation like we see it now, before there were property taxes, before there were any type of federal income taxes, right, which is illegal, took place passed in 1913, started to be implemented in the late teens. Again, it was only supposed to be on the richest people. Remember that? No, some of you don't remember that, but yeah, that's what it was. Only the very wealthy. We've heard this from Dummy and all these other schmucks, these leftists. That's what Woodrow Wilson said. Just the highest earners are just going to pay this federal income tax. Well, what happened? Well, obviously, it came to everybody. Exactly, that's what's going to happen in New York City pretty soon, too. Yeah, going to happen very soon. By the way, schools at the time, and obviously before 1913, were primarily funded through local community efforts, religious institutions, and any early forms of taxation like town levies and land-based assessments. So they use this money to build the schools. So, we have this local community support, obviously. You have voluntary contributions. You have tuition fees. You have things like donations from wealthy patrons or religious groups, of course. And again, people also had levies, certain taxation coming from local landowners. What else do we have here? Yep, things of that nature. But most people went to religious schools, especially in the early parts of this nation, even in the earlier parts of the colonies as well. But also what they did, too, was the federal government supported the education through land grants. So they would sell off public land for schools, and that's how they raised money to get the funds to do so. Now, obviously, we're in a different climate today than we were back in 1787, of course, when this was happening. But there were other ways. We had roads, we had bridges, we had schools before all this took place. And again, we just got off and we started saying, okay, we're just going to tax your wages now. And that's how we'll fund it. We'll do it this way. Well, in the early days of all this, you still had a strong dollar. You had a much stronger dollar than what you had now. Now your dollar's only worth about 2 or 3 cents, if that. And again, it's going to start dropping off very soon. So we find ourselves in this quagmire of what do we do? Do we keep the property tax? Do we lower the property tax? Do we just get rid of it all? Should we keep it? What's the best approach to this? If Governor Abbott, again, this is a state that has no state income tax too, by the way. If he absolutely removes it, he's going to have to try to go through something else like sales tax or a city tax to fund the schools or something along those lines to fund what's going on there. So, they brought this up. Texas, as I just said to you, no state income tax. So it's either property tax and sales tax, which are already high in the Lone Star State, but eliminating the property taxes in the state, again, as some Republicans have been advocating for, really seems somewhat implausible because sales taxes simply cannot carry the load. And if they did that, everything would just start going up in prices there. So you're balancing it out. Do I pay property tax and state income tax on my wages? Or I just pay a little bit more when I go to the grocery store or when I buy this product or that product. It'd be interesting to see how this works out. Maybe it's just caution into the wind. I don't know. Maybe they'll just reduce their property tax. I don't know how this will work out. But I have seen in other situations, if they want to fund certain things in, like, say, a city school, like athletics, they do like a city comes together, they vote on it. I saw it here in California. They all voted on it, and there's a city tax. And it's a very small number, but that money only goes to one certain thing, and that would be athletics in the school program. The school that I went to had probably one of the nicest facilities in any school I've ever seen as far as athletics goes. Just a pristine camp. I mean, it's beautiful, by the way. Didn't fund the whole school, but it funded just the athletics on the school. And that community values education, so they do it. So it's really interesting to see how some of these things can work, but are the people of Texas actually going to go through with this? I don't know. I really don't know how that's going to turn out. Abbott also said Texas, the heartbeat of America, strong, free, and full of promise, will defend values, protect our future, and keep Texas shining bright. So we'll see how that all turns out. If it actually would get passed, I don't know. But whatever they do, they're going to have to find another way to come up with that money. So it'll be interesting to see how he does that. All right. So moving on. What happened, by the way, with our wonderful shutdown? What happened last night? Well, pretty much what I figured was going to happen last night. Monday evening, the Senate then passed the continuing resolution that would reopen the government and, of course, keep it funded through the end of January, marking a step towards ending the 41-day shutdown, the longest in government history. So it looks like the Republicans came through. The resolution passed with a 60-40 vote. 8 Democrats switched over to the Republican side. And one of them being Angus King, who's an independent. But they caucused with the Republicans and Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky resolution. So it looks like this is getting passed. It looks like it'll go now to Speaker Johnson of the House, and they will come to pass this continuing resolution and get the government up and running again. So that's what it seems like what will be happening. And I think what's interesting about all this is that the Democrats were finally getting some blowback from what they did. And you saw this in things like flights, delays, cancellations. You see government workers out of work, but still told to go to work, like air traffic controllers. Trump said to go back to work, and it's like, well, you're not even getting paid. So why are you going back? Doesn't really make any sense, does it? Why would you do that? Again, our Border Patrol still went out, worked, even though they weren't getting paid. Now, it seems like they'll all be getting back pay, which is obviously crucial if they're putting in the work. But there you go. It's finally going to happen. There is a resolution, too, by the way, to give back pay to many of the federal workers and, again, reinstate employees that were fired at the start of the shutdown. However, it's not going to authorize an extension of the enhanced subsidies through insurance companies for Barry Obamacare. There you go. Now, they're going to try to put this to a vote later on. I don't think it's going to go anywhere since it's Republican leadership. But it'll be interesting to see how that happens. So, I think it'll pass in the House. Speaker Johnson said he has the votes. So we should see the government opening up soon. Now, many of us are somewhat happy about this. And again, not happy in the sense, well, I'm very glad the government's going to tax us more now. But some people on the left are not happy about this. One of them is the always genius, not too sunny Huston. And she called for Chuck Schumer to step down after the Democrats caved on the shutdown. She wanted this to go on forever, apparently. All while blaming the Republicans, of course. And in her incoherent rant, she said the following.
Let's be clear. The Republicans run the House. The Republicans run the Senate. The Republicans run the White House. The Republicans run the Supreme Court, as far as I'm concerned. This was a choice by Republicans to cut SNAP benefits. This was a choice by Republicans to cut ACA subsidies. This was a choice by the Republicans to gut the federal government and federal employment. Democrats had nothing to do with it. I want an opposition party. I think the Democrats caved. I think the Democrats let down the American people. And like you, Whoopi, I have absolutely no faith that the Republican Party will come to the negotiating table in good faith. You know, you do something like this, shame on you the first time. You do it twice, 3 times, 4 times, shame on me. Shame on the Democrats for even believing that the Republicans will, even vote on it. There's no guarantee in this New Deal that there's going to be a vote. There's no even commitment to have a vote. So the bottom line is the Democrats went into this after a blue wave out of the American people saying, we do want the opposition. We the working people want the Democratic Party to fight for them. And now they just caved and surrendered. I think Chuck Schumer, his days are over. If he cannot keep his caucus together, if he cannot keep his caucus together, he needs to go. He needs to be.
I completely disagree.
Okay, so not too sunny Austin, as you sadly had to hear. I do apologize for that, by the way. You know, the neurons in the brain aren't firing off. She's like, the Republicans are in charge. First of all, let's get one thing straight. The Republicans voted to keep the government open. That's a truism. That's a fact. You can like it, not like it. That's what happened. Republicans en masse voted for this. 52. Not a single Democrat voted for it. So it was the Democrats who are stonewalling the government from being open, from passing a continuing resolution to keep the government funded well through January. So who came and said, hey, we're not going to do this unless you do X, Y, and Z for us? And again, it was all preposterous. Healthcare for illegal aliens, all these ridiculous social programs abroad, things of that nature. Things, funding, NPR, PBS, all this nonsense that they want to get back that Trump took out. So it wasn't that, this is their hill to die on, but it's their fault. It's the Democrats' fault. This is why Chuck Schumer did it. He wants to appear like, a leftist because he knows that he's going to fear some backlash in this upcoming election. In the state of New York. That's what's going to happen. So, knowing all that, listen to this insane rant. Oh, we have no opposition. You had the government shut down for 41 days for what reason? Now we've got other parts of the government not funded. We have no air traffic controllers, so we have delays on Thanksgiving. You think you're not going to get pushback from that in the midterms? You don't think they're going to remember that? I mean, they can blame Republicans all day long. It was the Democrats that shut down the government. It was the Schumer shutdown, right? That was him. He held up the government. And they want him to keep going. Hey, just keep it going. We're not going to stop till we get that illegal alien health care program going. Extend those tax credits to them as well. You see how ridiculous this is. Now, a Democratic Senator, John Fetterman, who is probably one of the only Democrats in Congress that I can stomach listening to these days. He's from Pennsylvania. But I guess he made an appearance on The View. Maybe it was after she said this. But he had the following to say, and I want you to hear his version of what happened. And he was one of the first people that came out and said, hey, look, enough's enough. We got to get this rolling. This has got to stop. Okay, we got to get the government working. This is our job to work together. Again, they did it 13 times under the Biden administration. No problem with Chuck Schumer then. Now, all of a sudden, it's Donald Trump. They can't do it. You make it make any sense.
It is viewed by many of us, but the reality is 42 million Americans now not sure where their next meal is going to come from, and because we vote like that, or people that haven't been paid for 5 weeks now, and that kinds of chaos. Those workers have to borrow more than $500 million, from their credit union just to pay their bills now. So for me, we're in the middle of this.
Senator, I got to ask you to hold up.
It is.
Senator, listen to me. I got to tell you something. You got to bash Trump on this show. Okay, whoopee cushion, you tell me how it's Trump's fault. First of all, Trump has nothing to do with this. It's the legislature. Do they not understand separation of powers? I really think they think Donald Trump is in the Congress. I really do think that. But there you go. You have Fetterman saying right now, look, we're affecting all these programs. The SNAP program. Okay? This is a problem. People are not able to get the funds necessary into this program because they're not funding the government. The USDA doesn't have any more funds, right? They've said this. What did Chuck Schumer do? Nothing. They blame Republicans. Well, he was the one holding the government hostage. So good on Fetterman for, again, calling out the hypocrisy of his party. He might be one of the only sane people in that entire group. It seems like. It seems like to me, at least. So not a good one for Sunny today. I don't think so. Not too sunny, not too bright. She has that problem here and there. Yep. So it looks like we'll get things going fairly soon. Oh, by the way, Al Jilani, right, whose new name is now Al-Shara, actually came to the White House yesterday. I can't believe this. He's not a new president of Syria right now. He's a former Al-Qaeda member who once had a $10 million bounty on his head. You try to make sense of that. Can anyone make sense of that? How do we allow a terrorist who has killed Americans to come to the White House? This is what I want to know. I mean, really and truly, it's disgusting. This is a guy who kills Christians. They kill Druze. They kill Alawites. They kill other people inside Syria right now. Currently, right now, this is happening. And yet we're laser focused on what's happening in Nigeria. Again, you try to make it make sense, folks, because it doesn't make any bit of sense to me. Why this is? How could we allow a terrorist to come meet in the White House? Donald Trump talking about what a great guy he is, all this other nonsense. And, they put him in a nice suit, nice tie. They give him a haircut. They take off the bandana. This guy was wanted by the FBI for murdering Americans. And now he's really is awful to see this. And I just wanted to bring this up to you. They're trying to, I guess, humanize this guy. I don't know. He's an Al-Qaeda member. He's killed Americans. And yet he's now welcomed into the White House. David Petraeus, he portrays us as idiots because we don't know the history. This guy is a criminal. In international law, a terrorist organization. It's not even Syrian, for God's sake. He's born in Saudi Arabia. Now he's leading Syria into the ground. Now all of a sudden he's this political member. Again, it's really, really shocking to see our government respond in such a way. Someone of this caliber to, again, come into the White House and speak of this person as if they're just some great human being. I'm sorry, folks. There's certain things you can and cannot do, and this, to me, is simply one of them. How do you have a terrorist come to the White House and invite him in to talk about what a great guy he is, got so much potential, while he's killing Christians, killing Alawites, killing Druze, other minority populations inside Syria right now? Yet we go to war with Nigeria now. Right? We're going to go in guns a-blazing if they keep killing Christians. What about your guy, Al Jilani? He's killing Christians right now. No one's saying a damn thing about that. They're killing Christians in Gaza, in the West Bank. No one's saying a damn thing about that. Then Nigeria does it. Everyone gets up in arms. All of a sudden they care about Christians. I told you before, I'm against violence of all kinds. What we're seeing in Africa is disgusting. What we're seeing in the Sudan is disgusting, among other places. This Boko Haram group that goes around killing, and this jihadist group goes around killing Christians for the sole purposes that they're Christians. But when other people do it, it's okay. It's fine. Doesn't matter. I don't know, folks. I really don't know about some of the decisions we've made as a nation as of late. We should be condemning all kinds of violence when it happens. It's wrong for all sides to do that. Again, I hope you can agree with me on that position as well. Breitbart's got an article that says ICE agents arrest illegal alien in U.S. on El Salvador's most wanted gang members list. I'm looking at a picture of this Emmy Award winner. He's got 666 tattooed across his forehead. He's got other designs tattooed over his face. Probably not Father of the Year like Abrego Garcia, I don't think, but this is a hardened criminal. Probably let in, I'm going to guess, came in under the Biden administration. I've got to make a guess here. This is what we're dealing with here in this country. Human debris like this coming in the country. But it says here, Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents now arrested an illegal alien whose establishment media would classify as a non-criminal who was on El Salvador's most wanted gang members list. It says ICE agents arrested Antonio Israel Lazo Quintanilla. I can't say his name properly, I'm sure. Forgive me for that one. My Spanish isn't up to date. Of El Salvador. Last month after he had been convicted of driving without a license. Well, how could he get a license? Oh, maybe he should have gone to California and gotten it. See, he should have gone to California. Should have done it. Well, it's all right. I consider it a lost opportunity for him. He could have been a California citizen. I'm sure he would have paid taxes. I'm sure he wouldn't have sprayed any, pro MS-13 graffiti all over the San Fernando Valley. No. Why would that happen? Okay. So in addition, though, Lazo, I think it's Quintanilla. I think that's how it is. Okay. Is a member of the 18th Street, 18th Street Gang. There we go. A foreign terrorist organization is wanted in El Salvador for aggravated homicide, extortion, and drug possession, among other felonies. Again, he's on El Salvador's most wanted list, gang member list as well. So he's just wanted. They want him. Okay. 70% of ICE agents and their arrests now are of criminal illegal aliens charged or convicted of crimes inside the United States. That's what Tricia McLaughlin has stated. She said now that the gang member on El Salvador's most wanted list is a perfect example of ICE targeting the worst of the worst. Now, he may lack a violent rap sheet here in the United States, but his criminal record, illegal alien and his record is clearly a public threat to society. Well, of course he is. Look what he did back in his home country. As of late October, the Department of Homeland Security has arrested almost 500,000 illegal aliens across the United States, 7 of 10 who have been charged or convicted of crimes. And again, you're just scratching the surface, though, with this. I told you before. You've got at least 50 million, 45, 50 million illegals in this country. You've only gotten, what do they say, 500,000? So, I mean, you're barely scratching the surface on this. You're barely scratching the surface. There's got to be more to do. 500,000 is not it, folks. Those are not mass deportations. Again, I know what many people are going to say. Not everyone who's illegal is a hardened criminal like this. I understand that. Don't think I don't understand it. But again, you have to be a nation of laws. That's how a nation survives. Mexico wouldn't put up with this. El Salvador wouldn't put up with this. None of these countries put up with this nonsense. So why does America have to put up with this nonsense? What the Trump administration should have done, if they want to keep people here that are English speaking, they are working, they can provide their own, they have no criminal record, they should have offered, obviously, a way towards citizenship to them. Not just an amnesty. They should have had them go through the proper channels, vet them all, know who they are, and then bring them back in an expedited fashion to the country should we need them here. That's what should be done. But now, I mean, this whole thing with, we're just going to go after the most hardened of the criminals. Well, I mean, that's fine that you go after hardened criminals. I'm not saying that. But you still have so many more people that don't even belong here that are here. And that's the biggest problem of it all. Yeah. Oh, by the way, there was a bloody conflict at the UC Berkeley campus after Antifa storms a TPUSA event, clashing with many people, creating a bloody conflict going on there. So the Turning Point USA leaders quickly blamed the bloody conflict on anti-fascism agitators, as footage showed demonstrators trying to break through police barricades after a campus event for the group was kicked off late Monday evening. So there you go. You have UC Berkeley, was once the epicenter of the freedom of speech movement in America. is now what? A place where you could maybe get freedom of speech? I don't know. They don't like their opposition, do they? The Antifa members. The Antifa trash. They want to shut you down, which is exactly what a fascist would do. And again, time and time again, we see this happen over and over in this country. Antifa tries to shut people down, try to silence you. And again, we've got to always stand up for the right for people to speak. Even though we don't like it, we should always champion their ability to speak. Folks, thanks for reading again. Again, happy Veterans Day to all our veterans out there. God bless each and every one of you. And I'll catch every one of you back here tomorrow on the Marco Geray Show. I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, be good. Stay busy. God bless.